Phil Steele releases his annual magazine with preseason SEC and All-Americans. Which Tigers landed on the list?
Midweek report coming at you guys, brought to you by our friends at the Rage Room, the Opelika and Birmingham Rage Room. If you're in the Opelika area or if you live in the greater Birmingham area and you want to get some rage out, do so at 1510 2nd Ave in Opelika, Alabama, or 2616 7th Ave, South Birmingham, Alabama. The Rage Room is a very, very special place where you can do some things you can't do in real life. Ladies, if your man is cheating, don't go bust out his windshield. Go to the Rage Room and let them provide a windshield for you to bust out. See, keeping some of y'all out of jail. The Rage Room, great sponsors of the War Report and more specifically the Midweek Report. I want to thank our friends at the Rogue Shop. Visit rogueshop.com. Use code REPORT to get 15% off your Rogue Shop order. Pain, sleep, stress, anxiety, whatever ails you in life, the Rogue Shop has something that has you covered. And our friends at the Vibe Vault, you can find them at 3462 Crosswinds Road, Suite E in Phoenix City, Alabama. Not just barbers, lifestyle consultants. Get fresh for the weekend with the Vibe Vault. Join our community by hitting that join button. $5.99 a month will get you a patron membership that will get you access to some very, very special content, especially during SEC Media Days, which is coming up in a few weeks at the College Football Hall of Fame in Atlanta. We'll be there giving you guys lots of great content all week. And you can give the gift of the War Report by hitting that gifted membership button. YouTube chooses these at random, so check your email. You could be on the receiving end of a membership gifted to you by one of our other great members. Love when our community helps us grow our community. So thank you guys. Let's see if we can get a few given away on today's live cast.
Yes, indeed. Well, we are here with the Midweek Report, talking a little bit about preseason lists. It's list season still going on because we are not to the real season yet. So it's list season. Hopefully everybody is enjoying list season. But Auburn has some guys on this list. Phil Steele, of course, annually putting out his preseason magazines, and he is deciding who he feels like are the best players in each conference, and then puts out a preseason All-American list. So we will start with the All-SEC lists that exist right now, and which Auburn Tigers landed on that list. Let's take a look at that from Phil Steele. What we have here from Phil Steele's list is only one first-team All-SEC guy here. Cam Coleman, first-team All-SEC wide receiver. You have 3 second-team folks here. Eric Singleton Jr. at wide receiver, Xavier Chaplin at offensive line, and then you've got Rayshawn Pleasant at a special teams guy there. And then third team All-SEC, you have Keldric Faulk and Connor Liu. Fourth team All-SEC, according to Phil Steele, Jeremiah Wright at the offensive line and KN Lee at the defensive back. So my question to you, Mike G, when you see this list and you see where the Tigers land, what are your initial thoughts?
Cam Coleman on first team preseason, no surprise to anybody. He will make actual first team preseason All-SEC in a few weeks here when we are in Atlanta. You and I will make sure of it personally. Second team, you got to love when a guy who's never taking a snap in your conference walks into the conference and just makes second team All-SEC. If that doesn't tell you how talented Eric Singleton Jr. is, I don't know anything's going to convince you except for when he goes out there and he's blowing past people with that 4.2 speed we keep hearing about. Xavier Chaplin as well, too. Gotta love it when a guy transfers to the conference, particularly at offensive tackle, and then just makes preseason All-SEC. we've been telling everybody that Auburn had beefed up their O-line. You had them predicted Ike in the starting five. You said Chaplin would be a starter this year. To me, that cements that opinion there. So, kudos to you. And then Rayshawn Pleasant as well, too. Another guy, coming in there. This is making the list. How you put Eric Singleton Jr. and Xavier Chaplin, second team All SEC when they haven't taken a snap in the conference, and Keldric Faulk is on third team? Give me a break. What? Yeah. What's going on?
Yeah, I was a bit confused as to I don't know if Keldric Faulk is the best defensive end in the SEC. Is he the third best though? That's where I was just like, there's two other guys apparently, which we can look at the numbers and we can make determinations about guys maybe that entered the conference that people think. I don't know. And I've been looking, I'm trying to see the full list so I can see who was ahead of him on this list for Phil Steele. And I have not been able to find the full list without trying to purchase the his magazine. But I was confused by that. I'm not going to tell him he's wrong. I would love to see who the guys are that are in front of him. When I look at the numbers, though, when I look at and you guys know that we are big proponents of utilizing PFF just because PFF ranks everybody, right? It's not as if you've got this one-off thing. It's the same ranking system for every single person. And so I try to look at PFF numbers and not that I think PFF is infallible, but at least they're ranking everybody using the same criteria, right? So whether I feel like that criteria is accurate to how good they are, bad, it's at least it's the same criteria, right? And we can, and statistics don't necessarily show that. And that's why I say we could look at sack numbers, we could look at tackle numbers, but PFF grades a little differently. Like they're looking at playing the position, whether they're playing it properly according to what pros say this person should be doing, right? Last season, Keldric Faulk was the number 30th ranked defensive end or the edge guy, according to PFS. He was number 30. And so my question would be, of the 29 guys in the country, right? Not just the SEC. Let me, because we're just talking SEC right now. Let's narrow this down to just SEC teams and see where he is ranked now. Excuse me, Keldric Faulk. Number 9. He's the number 9 ranked defensive edge player, according to Pro Football Focus last season. So my question would be, of the returning guys in front of him, how many of those guys are returning this season and they have ranked ahead of Keldric Faulk, or Phil Steele has ranked ahead of? That's what my question would be.
That was in the entire country or in the conference?
That's in the conference. He's number 9 in the conference last year.
Yeah.
So guys in front of him were Princely Umali, Tyreek Stapp from Florida, Joshua Josephs, Jalen McLeod, who not at Auburn anymore, so he's gone to the league. So I know he ain't in there. James Pierce, Quandarius Robinson of Alabama, and Jamarcus Weston. I think a lot of those guys are in the league now. So I'm just wondering, who are the 2 guys that are ranked ahead of him? I don't know the answer to that. I definitely tried to find it. Prince Umialin, he's definitely still in the SEC. So maybe he was number 1. Ole Miss's Jared Ivey is he's still there at Ole Miss. So maybe it's those 2 guys. I don't know.
Yeah, I would say this. If you're telling me maybe Phil Steele thinks there's a ton of good edges in the conference and this was a tough decision, so somebody had to be at third, I'm picking Keldric Faulk, I could maybe buy that. But I'll tell you this. This is where, I said it for the draft. I think it's true here when it comes to these preseason lists, Ike. The association with losing from last season hurts the perception of what he could and should be this season. That's it. He's on a winning team. He's second team at worst.
Yeah. So I'm looking at this list. It looks as if most of these guys are returners. So he is at least ranked ahead of guys who had higher PFF rankings than him, according to Phil Steele. But I still do wonder, and I think I agree with you here, is that his productivity, I think, is hurt, number 1, by the fact that, and forgive me, AU alum, because I know you very much disagree with this idea that the offense has some contributing factor to this and everybody lost these games. But I do think the production of Keldric Faulk is hurt by the number of snaps he has to take because the offense is not doing what they need to do out
they're
there
always on
to
the
help.
field.
Right, to help control the line of scrimmage and time of possession and all of those things. That's number one. But number two, to the point that you just made, I do think the perception of some players is hurt more by losing by the team in general, right? If you're on a team that wins more, I think your perception is helped a little bit in some of these things.
There's a subjective component to these preseason rankings. I think that the postseason all SEC team is more objective because it's based on numbers. It should be based on numbers and exactly what they did. And the preseason, you're projecting some. Singleton Jr., he hasn't done a damn thing in the SEC. But the perception of him and what he was able to do at Georgia Tech, him being the number 2 overall player in the portal, that helps him. And, that was what a lot of people like Josh Pate would call very underrated, overlooked Georgia Tech team. So, there is a subjective component here, which is why we're arguing this. We're saying, look, subjectively, if you can, bump him all the way down to 3rd, objectively, we can say you're full of it and he should be ranked higher.
I mean, listen, and here's the thing too, and just because it is a draft year and there may be guys who are not draft eligible that are ahead of him, I think that the NFL ranks Keldric Faulk pretty highly. He's on a lot of lists for guys who they think are going to be first-round draft picks going into this season, right? And so I would then have to ask the question, the 2 guys who are ahead of Keldric Faulk on this list, are they draft eligible this season? And do NFL scouts believe that those guys are more NFL ready than Keldric Faulk is right now? I would ask that question honestly. Or is this, again, a measure of, I think Keldric Faulk's production is going to be hurt because there aren't enough other guys to worry about along that defensive front for Auburn? Because you notice there's not another defensive lineman. I mean, there's only one other defensive player, which is interesting, right? We have so many questions about the offense, but of the guys making the list for this, only 2 of them are defensive guys. Pleasant is a defensive player, but he made it as a special teams player on the second team.
Okay.
Lee and Faulk are the only defensive players that have made this list for Steele in the preseason. Is that because the defenses are just so good that Auburn doesn't have overwhelming talent at the top of it? Or are we maybe even underrating our own offensive potential by the number of guys that are making this list for Phil Steele that are offensive guys? Coleman, Singleton, Chaplin, Lou, Wright, all offensive guys that made this.
Coleman is the only offensive guy on this list that got recruited to Auburn out of high school. The rest are transfers. Faulk.
Well, Connor Lou.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I'm sorry.
Well, actually, no, Jeremiah Wright as well. Jeremiah Wright, Connor Lou, and Cam Coleman.
Was he recruited? I thought he was a transfer. I'm sorry.
Nah, well, Wright was one of those guys who was defensive, offensive lines flipping back and forth his earliest seasons. But yeah, he's been
okay. All right. Well, I'll erase what I just said. But the highest rated guy was recruited out of high school. And offensively, Cam Coleman transcends whatever perception you have about Auburn as a team. It is highly believed that he's going to be get his name called in the first day of the draft. I don't care what his numbers are, his measurables, his ability. Cam Coleman's ability transcends whatever perception you have of Auburn and what they've done and what they will do. Period. Point blank, period. That is how good he has been and how good he has the potential to be. Everybody else, it's a little bit of a roll of the dice when people on the outside who don't maybe analyze this as deeply as we do are looking at it. This is why I think this team has the ability to be a lot better than what people think they will be, because all of these guys listed here, I think maybe with the exception of Jeremiah Wright, have, to me, in my mind, have the ability to finish second team or higher when it's all said and done. Everybody else, I think, can finish second team or higher. when it's
Okay.
all said and done. They have added so much talent. And right now, there's a discourse happening on social media about Auburn football recruiting and where they stand right now. Not a ton of recruits in the pocket, ranked well outside the top 25 at this moment, with a lot of work to do and seemingly not a lot on the precipice of committing. It's going to come down to results on the field here if they want to rebolster their 2026 class, and it's going to be those first 6 games that tell the story. So everybody we see here is going to have to come together, and they're going to have to prove it. Give Hugh Freeze proof of concept. Cam Coleman was a can't miss. You can't mess up Cam Coleman. The only way to, even if you don't throw him the ball, everybody's going to be like, it's a you problem. It's not him.
Yeah, that's it, at the end of it. It's going to always be you messed up.
him up.
Yeah, because there's no reason why he shouldn't.
Eric Singleton Jr., if this is a good spot for him, I think he'll thrive. If Keandre Lambert-Smith could thrive here under Peyton Thorne, don't see a reason why Singleton Jr. can't, especially with his route running ability and his speed. And you can't teach the latter. That speed, boy, I'm telling you, it kills, and he's got it in spades. And those first two guys we mentioned, will be helped by the next guy, Xavier Chaplin. He's giving Jackson Arnold more time in the pocket. I think that, Jackson Arnold behind a good offensive line with these receivers has a chance to be deadly. And we should, if things go well, especially with the schedule, see him on this list by the end of the season. So I get it. If you're in a wait and see mode with a lot of these players, there are guys that got left off this list, like Jay Crawford not making any preseason lists. I don't know if that's right.
Yeah, I mean, so you have to look at this list, right? So that would mean you have 8 cornerbacks that you feel like are better than Jay Crawford in the preseason right now in the SEC. Now, again, I have not taken the time to evaluate all 16 teams and all then subsequently 32 outside corners that would exist, and where Jay Crawford would rank amongst those. But I mean, I'm gonna keep it a stat with you. I think Jay Crawford might be a better defensive back than K.N. Lee. I think K.N. Lee's had more snaps, but I think Jay Crawford might be the better prospect of the two guys. So I think Lee making it above Crawford might be a little bit, I don't know.
Maybe a little suspect for sure. Yeah, good conversation to have, though. And it doesn't mean that K.N. Lee's not good. It just means that's how much talent Auburn has, that we're having this discussion about who belongs and who doesn't. As a matter of fact, I think both those guys have the ability to end up on this list by the end of the season.
Yeah.
So, I don't feel has an honorable mention for his preseason list, but I bet you if he did, there'd be a ton of Auburn Tigers on it. I think these guys are real good.
I do think that from a talent perspective, again, a lot of people are sleeping, even people within the Auburn sphere, I think, are sleeping on the talent level. Now, again, whether or not the utilization of that talent and how that's going to equate to wins, very separate conversations. But the level of the talent, I think, is being universally recognized around collegiate football that this team has enough talented players to go out there and affect winning football games. And that kind of is the whole thing that Coach Freeze has been saying the whole time, is like, our talent level has not been to this space and we need to get it there. Now, the question is whether or not they can use it right.
Yeah, I agree. It comes back to coaching at the end of the day. It's the part that they have to own. You've gotten the talent. As a matter of fact, you pointed the finger at the talent for 2 years.
Right.
And said, we have to recruit and we got to raise the talent. We got to close the talent gap. We got to raise the talent level, however you want to say it. And now that you've achieved that, and kudos to them. That's what they said they needed to do, and that's what they did. So it wasn't like they were complaining about it, but then they didn't do anything about it. They did something about it. As a matter of fact, I would say they overachieved these first 2 years with the results that they had to work with, bringing in the talent that they did, and then retaining the talent they've been able to keep here.
Yeah.
Good thing about having a guy like Cam Coleman is he knows he's good, man. He knows he's good. As a matter of fact, he knows he's so good he can survive a bad Auburn, and he's still going pro. He's going to play ball at the next level.
Right.
No question. Zero question that you can have 7 rounds of the NFL draft and not one person is going to pick Cam Coleman. Give me a break. He's going. I don't think there's a chance he makes it to day 2. He's that good. So I like where Auburn is at right now. You don't need everybody to recognize how talented you are at this point. What you need you need to go out and show people how talented you are when August 29th comes and you make the trip out to Waco and the eyes of the world literally are on you. On Fox. Hopefully my guy Gus Johnson on the call. And you show out and you run them Bears off into the woods.
Yeah.
Right.
That will definitely help the perception of the program a lot. You know, it will help with recruiting. It will help with donor sentiment. It will help with fan sentiment. Going out there and putting on a show in that first game versus Baylor is immensely helpful.
There's a discourse going on social media right now. Like, would you rather be caught in the woods with a man or a bear? Right. That's good. Like, and my answer to that is you better be worried about a motherfucking tiger. The bear better be worried about the tiger.
Fair.
Right. Because they're coming in deep.
Pause.
Whoa, buddy.
Other than the possible underrating, well, so we've talked about Keldric Faulk. The other guy that I'm honestly a little surprised is third team on here. Both of the third team guys on here are surprising to me. Is Connor Lew? Are there 2 centers in the SEC that are better than Connor Lew right now? I don't know the answer to that. Again, I ain't done the research, but Phil Steele seems to think there are 2 centers in college football that are better than him.
Yeah, and I can see that. Connor Lew is extremely talented. You're talking about a guy who played a ton as a true freshman. You know, came in and the perception of the sky's the limit for him. Could be one of the better centers to come through here in a very, very long time. And Auburn struggled kind of they were rotating guys through at that position over the last couple of years, trying to find, something that stuck. And then Connor got his shot, and boy, he did not want to give the job back. He's exactly what you expect from your young freshmen that come in those deep recruiting classes. When they get their chance to hit the field, even if they don't earn it because of lack of experience, you can't wrestle the job away from them after they get their shot to play. That's exactly what Connor Lew did. I love him. He's going to be one of the most underrated players the next few years, but he's so good. And when NFL draft time comes, I bet you he won't be underrated to those NFL scouts.
Yeah, I'm looking at again, PFF, the guys rated above him from last year, all returners. He's the 5th rated according to PFF, pass blocker. Let's look at total offensive rating. He's the 3rd rated total rated center according to PFF. And let me look at these 2 guys. Georgia's Jared Wilson is rated above him. And he is gone to the league right now, so he's no longer in college football. And then Jake Slaughter was rated above him from Florida, and he is returning, will be a 5th-year senior. So he redshirted 1 season. So that's the only PFF guy rated above Connor Lew that's on the list. So I do wonder who the other guy is that is potentially rated above him. Maybe it's a transfer somewhere. I don't know, but Connor Lew is the 2nd-rated returning SEC center according to PFF. So I think maybe a little underrated there by Phil Steele. But again, I'm not mad at it. Connor Lew made the list. He has the opportunity, and this is, again, preseason stuff. So you got the opportunity to change that perception as the season goes along.
Yeah, look, if he had the way I'm looking at it is, if he had an honorable mentions category, I would be interested to see who was on it, because once you get down to 4th team, you're debating those guys, right? There's probably a lot of talented guys down there that could have made the list that didn't, that, Ken Lee and Jeremiah Wright made it in over.
Mhm.
But ultimately, you have a team that went 5-7 last year, and coming into this season, you've got 8 guys on a preseason all SEC list. That's not bad. And yeah, I've been making this point on every single show I've been doing for the last 2 weeks. When you look at that 5-7 record Auburn put up last year, you'd think that they ranked near the bottom of the SEC in a lot of categories.
Right.
And the truth was, they were in the top half of the SEC in almost everything. There were some things that they were bad at. One of them, red zone scoring, dead last in the conference, 78%. Was good for dead last. Third down defense, awful. Dead last in the conference. They were awful on third down defense. But then when you look at, points allowed on defense, when you look at scoring overall, when you look at yards gained from scrimmage, I mean, they were middle of the pack right in there. And there's a clump of teams at the middle of the pack. So it's not a lot of separation between number 7, 6, and 5. Auburn is right there. Someone was going at me on social media just like 5 minutes ago. Your classic excuse, you bring it out. Oh, but look how close they are. Well, they are close.
The classic excuse for what? What was the statement about?
Of why Auburn isn't where they need to be, right? Like, oh yeah, you guys are always pointing them back, or you're overusing, you're overplaying your optimism based on almost results. And I know you may be tired of hearing that, but it's not untrue. I don't blame anybody who's in a wait and see mode, but Freeze is taking a lot of flack for saying, hey, we're almost there. What is he supposed to say?
Yeah, I get very confused because, again, and I said this when there was the massive overreaction to the comments that he made in regard to bowl eligibility and all of those things. And, people like, well, I want to hear him talk about championships and all this. And again, I said it then, I'll say it now. There's no winning in any statement that you make about expectations for the season, because the last 2 years, frankly, Auburn underachieved. You can say what you want to about talent, all those things. Auburn underachieved in the last 2 seasons, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because of that underachievement, any conversation this year, regardless of how optimistic you are about the potential results, are going to look crazy. If you say that, man, you know what, we've got a championship squad this year, people are going to be like, what? 5-7 Auburn's got a championship squad? Get out of here. So there will be those people who will say that. If you say the opposite about being cautiously optimistic, and I think we got a good shot, we'll go out here and we'll compete and we should be bowl eligible, which is what he said, then you're downplaying it too much and you don't have enough confidence in your team. There is not a way for Coach Hugh Freeze to win. And anyone who argues that, well, he could have said it like this, I guarantee you the way that you wanted to hear him say that will have people who will say that is a ridiculous statement. It works for you, but it will never work for everybody, because at the end of the day, the results on the field the last 2 seasons were the results on the field. So anything other than an achievement of 9 or better wins last year makes you look crazy for saying anything other than we're going to go out there and we're going to be competitive this year. It just is what it is. And that's just the situation that we've landed in with Auburn football right now. And I don't know how anyone can feel contrary to that. Like, I'm confused as to why the huge reaction that happens in regard to that statement, as if he said, well, I'm just happy we're not going to suck. Like, you swear that that's what he said, and it's not. It couldn't be further from the truth.
Yeah. Look, I mean, Hugh Freeze has just got to go out and prove it on the field. That's all it boils down to at this point. If he can prove it on the field, and it will be everything will start to work itself out. When you look at things through the lens of losing, Ike, you're going to get these narratives. And yeah, it's part of why a lot of these coaches, like, I don't spend a lot of time on social media. It's because it's a lot of folks yapping about, what you did or didn't do, which comes with the job. We get paid to yap about it. So I get it. At some points, he probably loves what we have to say. Other points, he disagrees strongly. He knows more than we do because he's the one doing it.
Right.
But we know what we see. And until what we see is clearly better, then, there's a level of this that you got to deal with.
Right.
Hugh Freeze is not naive. He knows that comes with the job. So Auburn is close. What I see is that Auburn is close. And what I see is that it's on him to make sure that it all comes together in a way that produces dubs on Saturday. What I see is you've been given an incredible amount of resources to build the type of team that you think can win. What I see is that there are people who have spared no expense to make sure that you have every luxury to go out and get the quarterback that you need. What I see is there were a lot of people that believed in you and gave you a shot to come in here and do this again that had to do so at the expense of maybe even their reputation. What I see is there were a lot of people that thought that Hugh Freeze didn't deserve the chance.
Right.
So you got to go out and you got to make those people wrong this season. What I see is Auburn hasn't had a damn winning season, Ike, in almost 4 years. In exactly 4 years. Has it been longer?
Yeah.
2020 was the last winning season?
Yeah.
And you ran that guy out of town. What I see is a lot of people understand that it was time for a change. But we didn't want the change to be, we can't make a bowl game.
Right.
What I see is Auburn University has the chance to win championships in almost every sport.
Yeah.
And what I see is Hugh Freeze has been charged with being, the steward of that task for football. And what I see is this year he's got to get it done. So if you are in the camp that feels like there are no more excuses this year, I'm with you. I'll close by saying, my good friend Doug Amos over at ESPN 1067, he said this to me. He said, Mike, you understand you're putting a lot of pressure on this team when you say this is the most talented roster they've had in the last 20 years. And I'm like, yeah, Doug, damn right.
I don't see that as pressure though. That's
and I get it. Like Doug and I went back and forth over this, and I just was like, look, I get it. I understand why you think that's a bold statement, but it's true. Go look at the composite rankings. This is an unprecedented amount of talent they've been able to go out and bring in. And even if he goes out and goes 5-7 again next year, it doesn't mean we were wrong about the talent level.
Right.
If you want to win championships, that pressure comes with it. And whether I say it or don't, it doesn't change anything about the equation. That's it. So, yes, I'm going to say it. It's time to go out and produce, man.
Yeah, I don't even see that as pressure, though, right? Like, again, it's a very factual statement that this is the most talented roster that Auburn has had in a very long time. Like, I don't want to quantify how many years. So, if there's pressure involved with you being talented and people expecting you to perform at a level at which talent exists, then I don't know, be more mediocre. What do you want me to say?
Facts.
If you want to be more mediocre and then people don't expect things of you, right? Like that is what happens with self-sabotage. A lot of people just is like, well, if I perform at a lower level, people want to expect things of me. Well, I'm sorry, you're good. And people want to see you be good. So who cares? Suck it up and be better. So anyway, well, that's a great conversation. We're not done with this Phil Steele conversation because we got the All-Americans coming up from this list, and we want to take a look at that. Before we get over into that, I want you guys to be doing a favor and sharing this content with somebody. Please do that. Go out there on social media and spread the word. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, all of those things. We will be back with a word from our sponsors, and then we will get into the second half of this, talking about the All-Americans according to Phil Steele preseason. You're watching the Midweek Report.
This edition of the War Report is brought to you by our generous sponsors. Golden's Cast Iron. Whether you work out, grill out, or chill out, you deserve the best life possible, and Golden's Cast Iron is here to provide the tools to help you do it. Check them out at goldenscastiron.com.
The Rage Room. The Rage Room is a place where anger and stress find their ultimate release. Set up a session today at one of the 2 great locations in Opelika or Birmingham by visiting opelikaRageRoom.com or BirminghamRageRoom.com.
Join as a member. $6 a month will get you there. We are at SEC Media Days, and we're going to be bringing you guys lots of patron-only content from the College Football Hall of Fame next month. You don't want to miss that. Help us grow our community by joining as a member. I want to thank our friends at the Rogue Shop. Visit rogueshop.com. Use code REPORT to get 15% off your Rogue Shop order. Pain, sleep, stress, anxiety, whatever ails you in life, the Rogue Shop has the cure. The Rogue Shop, longtime sponsors of the War Report. I want to thank our friends at the Vibe Vault. If you're looking to get fresh for the weekend, take your girl on a date, looking to look your best for that special event, the Vibe Vault has you covered, not just barbers, lifestyle consultants, and you can get a little consultant advice over at 3462 Crosswinds Road, Suite E in Phoenix City, Alabama. The Vibe Vault, visit thevibevault.com and book your style session today. Check us out on podcasts, guys. Every podcast platform, we are there bringing you guys lots of audio only content. The Auburn Express Uptempo, the College Loop, Just a Sec, and the War Report Gaming channel. Go listen to us on pod, subscribe, turn on automatic downloads. This helps us a ton. Again, everything you hear here, you will be able to hear on audio later. But also, we do a lot of things over there that we only do for our podcast audience, and you don't want to miss those conversations. Ike released an exclusive interview with Stephen Pearl on audio, as well as Auburn men's basketball assistant Ira Bowman. So if you're looking to get a little bit more educated on what's going on with Auburn basketball, podcast is the way to do it. Go visit the Auburn Express. And last but certainly not least, guys, go check out our written work at the War Report or the AuburnExpress.com. We put up articles every single day now, taking a deep dive into the world of Auburn sports. So a lot of football coverage. We'll toss in some women's basketball and men's basketball when those things start to come around a little bit more. We're covering gymnastics. We're covering Auburn sports in a way you have not been prepared for, all free for you over at thewarreport.com.
Yes, indeed. Let's get over here into this comment section before we talk about the All-Americans, according to Phil Steele. We'll start with Dustin Pace, who has been a member for 27 months, who says, for my mental state, as good as this team is, they got to kill it this season. Roster has its questions, but how many rosters have no questions in college football? This is a good, the second half of this question, or the question that you pose at the end, I think is a good perspective question for people to ask, because immediately when people start to deconstruct as a fan, your team, you immediately go to, well, here are the question marks for my team, right? Like people are like, I don't know about this running back room, or I'm not so sure about our linebackers, right? But you can list off all of the good things, but you're gonna focus in on or I'm unsure about the quarterback position, or whether your questions are about the coaching staff. I don't care what it is. What Dustin said at the end of this, I think, is an important thing for people to do when having these evaluative processes themselves and determining whether or not Auburn has a shot in these games is, well, which teams don't have questions about their roster this year? And are those questions that they have potentially either, as if Auburn faces those teams, something that Auburn can exploit, or big enough things where Auburn should have significant advantages in those games? And those are the real questions that you have to ask yourself when you're talking about win-loss records for a team. It's not whether or not your team is perfect, because there isn't a perfect football team out there, because these are collegiate students who are out here, all of them dealing with transfer portal issues, all of them, like all the litany of stuff, right? The question is, how does Auburn stack up against the people who they have to play against? And what do you think the outcomes will be in those games? And everybody's got questions that they're trying to answer right now. So why are your questions more significant? The answer to that really is they're not. You just focus on them more because you're the fan of that team.
Yeah, look, I get this, Dustin, for your mental state. Auburn's got to do a lot of things better this season. And hopefully one of those things is not a lot of end of the game, drag it out. Hopefully they put the foot on the neck and they go for the kill so that we are not doing what we did versus Texas A&M last year. I was there, guys, and I can tell you it was fun and simultaneously no fun running from end zone to end zone because they just kept doing it. Ultimately, it turned out well for Auburn, but you would like to see Auburn, close those games out in regulation and do so definitively. So Auburn fans will take wins any way they can get them next year, but they have the talent to really put some games away, and I'm hoping that's what we see. Get through the first 6 games. I think you'll see Auburn go on a pretty epic run.
Beat Georgia says definitely overrated. Speaking of Keldric Faulk, he gets the freak athlete bonus. You think Keldric Faulk is overrated?
Say it to his face.
That's a spicy take there. Yeah. Overrated Keldric Faulk. I'm not sure. I'd be interested, other than your statement about him getting a freak athlete bonus, why you feel as if there is an overrating of Keldric Faulk going on out there. Dustin jumps back in and says, I'm walking on sunshine and I'm ready to have my heart broken again. I'm pumping it like never before. Pause. Yeah, that's a little pause worthy right there at the end. But listen, I'm never going to be the guy that discourages people from getting their hopes up in the preseason about what is potentially going to be whatever happens with your team, unless your team plays in Oxford, Mississippi. Like everybody outside of that, then I encourage you to have a lot of faith in what you feel like the ceiling of your team is going to be. Even if you are the Diego Pavias of the world who feel as if you're going to beat Bama in back-to-back years and Vanderbilt will become the team of the state of Tennessee over the Volunteers once the Diego Pavia parade is done there inside of Nashville. But however, in addition to also, Auburn is actually, I think, going to be better this year. So I don't think that your hope is misplaced. How much better is still yet to be seen, but I do think it's a better team this year.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's see here. TK, Phil is a good handicapper, made plenty on his picks over the years, but this list is a head scratcher in a couple of spots. Yeah, I agree. I mean, again, I'm not mad at preseason predictions being a little bit low for certain guys, because at the end of the day, you have an opportunity to overcome that and be better by the end of the season to say, hey, preseason, you predicted me here. Here's where I ended up. And there are guys out here who have the opportunity to do that.
Yeah.
John jumps in and says, Phil Steele is kind of wild sometimes. I remember he was huge on John Franklin III at quarterback, was a huge Joey Gatewood guy. Yikes. I do not remember that, but both of those things could not have been further from accurate. Joey Gatewood and John Franklin III both barely saw snaps at Auburn, and subsequently, I don't think anybody else believed in their ability, specifically Joey Gatewood's ability.
They missed so hard on Joey Gatewood.
Listen, man, the Cam Newton phenomenon, that the phenomenon that was Cam Newton, created a lot of people who thought, because this guy is big and strong, he will be the next Cam Newton. And I'm here to tell you, and I've said it plenty of times, that brother is one of one. There is no next Cam Newton. There might be another dude who's physically freaky. There is no other Cam Newton like that. They broke the mold. That's it. He made one, and he was like, I did it.
Yeah.
Well, mission accomplished. I don't need to do that again, because Cam Newton is one of one, bro. Like, it's just not another one out there. So let's see. Cool Breeze says that Hugh Freeze needs to stop shaky messaging. People would be behind him if he didn't make many excuses. Shaky messaging I mean, again, I'd argue that if he made stronger messages, there would be people who would criticize those strong messages. So I think that Hugh Freeze is being the consummate politician that he is, and just not trying to overpromise and underdeliver. He's trying to just say, "Hey, man, I think we're gonna be all right," and then hopefully overdeliver in the expectation realm, not put
Yeah.
any huge expectations out there.
Let me say this, because there was a whole message board thread started about this. When he got here, I repeatedly said this coach has a messaging problem.
Mm-hmm.
I repeatedly said that, and I was attacked, Ike, for saying, like, I get what he's trying to say, but I'm not sure if he's saying those things the right way.
Right.
One guy started a, deport Mike G campaign on the corner over on 3 for me saying it. And now everybody's on social media saying, Hugh Freeze is a messaging problem. I told y'all that 2 years ago. It didn't mean I thought he was a bad coach or a bad person. There's just some things I would rather he not say.
Yeah,
to the
I only
media
think
the
that,
way
and,
he's
and
saying
where,
it.
where I agreed with you on his messaging issue was that I didn't think that it was necessary to speak to the level of talent that you feel like is on your team at all. Like, I don't, whether you feel like you're super talented or I don't really think that that's necessary, because you're saying those things publicly about your team and expecting your team to understand, oh, I'm just saying something. Like, no, I don't think that plays well in the locker room when you,
Facts.
whether it's with the players or with the parents of players. I don't think it plays well to say, I don't think that we're very talented, which was the essence of his, whether it's true or not, right? Like, again, being a straight shooter and telling the truth don't have to be like, just because it's true doesn't mean it needs to be said
Right.
out loud.
And so when people were saying, well, if that bothers these players, then we got the wrong players. No, shut up. Be quiet.
Yeah.
These guys are human, and words have meaning.
Yes.
So what these players may have been hearing is, our coach doesn't believe that we can win, that he can win with us.
Right.
When you say things like that, and when it gets tight in the fourth quarter and you're having to essentially outcoach the talent you have, that's the last thing you want them to believe. Show me where a coach like Nick Saban or Kirby Smart has come into a job talking about how bad the talent is. They didn't do that.
They didn't have an opportunity to do that because both of them walked into some pretty talented situations. Nick Saban didn't have championship talent, but
they lost to Louisiana Monroe that first year, and after, he never talked about the talent. He just was pissed that they lost and they didn't do things they were supposed to do.
Yeah, Nick Saban and Kirby Smart's situation, I don't think are mirrors of Coach Hugh Freeze's situation, though. So I don't know if those are analogous.
I would say it is, because they raised the level of talent. And they lost some games, early on, because they were not as talented as the teams that they played. But they just never pointed at it saying, hey, they know they had to go out and recruit. They just went out and did it. And they brought in talent. And Nick Saban won so fast that you didn't even have a chance to have that argument, right? Like, I mean, the Julio Joneses and all those guys he brought in the first couple of years, like, wow. He did what Nick Saban was doing before he left the SEC the first time. I'm with you. I think Kirby Smart probably inherited an even better situation than what Nick Saban got. But I don't think that even if they were in those situations, you would hear those coaches say anything about the talent. They just coach the guys they have, go out and get better guys where they can, create competition, and then just win. That's it. That's probably just been my biggest criticism of Hugh Freeze since he's been to. It's been
well, not my only. It is. I'd agree. It's been the largest one. It's not my only.
Yeah. Most of I support him on just about everything else.
Yeah.
All I'm saying is, hey man, when the mic gets on, and the honest to a fault thing is not cute anymore.
I mean, I don't know that it was ever cute.
Yeah. Just stop saying.
I'm not. Right. I was never mad about the honesty to a fault, but I do. And again, I agreed with you at the time. I don't know that this needs to be said. True or not, I don't know that this is a necessary conversation to introduce into the public sphere. There are enough other people. It's like one of those things where it's like, everybody else already saying this about me. I don't need you saying it about me too. And you're my coach, right? Like, if everyone else is like, this team isn't talented, they need to improve here. Heather Dinich is coming to your stuff and they're like, your wide receivers are terrible. And Auburn fans are like, and Hugh Freeze is like, yeah, they kind of are. It's like, damn, coach. Like,
no, you're not supposed to agree with her. I don't care. Even if she's right, you're not supposed to agree with her publicly. Right. Like, you know,
I'm not even asking you to defend them or overhype them. I'm just saying, just say nothing. Just avoid the conversation completely.
Yeah,
we'll compete with who we have.
Have you ever heard of the 3 gates of speech? Right? You know, before you say anything, you ask yourself 3 questions. Is it kind? Is it true? And is it necessary? And even if it's the first 2, it doesn't mean that it's necessary to say. Right. That's all I'm saying. Right? Like, you know, and if you have questions about any of them, you should consider about whether it's worth saying or not. Doesn't mean you can't say it.
Right.
But you should at least consider it. Is it kind? Is it true? Is it necessary? So before you go and say, you know, hey, man, I need players. Is it necessary? Because it could demotivate the kids that you need at least the first couple of years. You're going to have to play with a base of guys that somebody else recruited.
Yeah.
Now, you can maybe do what Deion did, because let me tell you something. He cleaned house when he got to Colorado.
Yes, he did. He absolutely was just like kicking dudes out the door. And he did it to the detriment of the win-loss record of that team, right? Like, he's just like, listen, eventually, it is what it is. But so here's and this is the other point that I think is important when you're having this conversation about the messaging of Coach Hugh Freeze. I understand that messaging was a contributing factor in how he was recruiting, even publicly. Right. He was publicly making it known. I feel as if there is a talent deficit, because that's what he was saying privately to these recruits when he was going into their living rooms, showing up at their football games, on Zoom meetings with them, whatever it was. He was saying, hey, I don't know that we're supremely talented in these spots. We need someone like you. I would wonder whether he felt like it was counter to his own point to go out there and publicly say something very differently in the press and be like, no, we're good here. And it's like, hey, no, I know I said that in that press conference, but I really mean it when I say we're not very good and we need you. Right. Yeah. So like, I understand there is a consistency in that messaging publicly that he was giving privately, and it worked. To his credit, he got talent in here at those positions that he felt like he needed to upgrade. So okay. I don't question the messaging from that standpoint, but I do think, similarly to, I think, the cleaning house with Coach Sanders in Colorado, I do think that messaging does contribute to the morale of the team and whether or not and it reflects in your win-loss record that you currently have as a team. That messaging, I don't know that plays well in the trenches in the fourth quarter.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I agree with you.
Again, and anybody feeling as if, to the point that you made, well, those aren't the right players, if they're hearing that they're not very good and then it affects their morale. Like, I think that there are enough studies out there about positive reinforcement and psyche for people in all walks of life that would counter that idea that I don't care how good I am at something. The one person who, like, that's like your parent and your coach, your spouse. Like, there are just certain people, no matter how true the statement is, I don't want to hear that from you. Yes, there are certain things that I'm not very good at, and there are ways that you can tell me that in very non-public ways that will reinforce my mental, the psyche that I have around that. You are the last person that I want to hear in a press conference say that. Like, it just, again, you can tell me I'm mentally weak for that, but I'm sorry. If my dad is holding a press conference and being like, my son is a failure, I'm not going to feel good about that. I'm sorry. What are we doing? Dad, for real? Dad? That's what you're saying? Out here in public, in front of everybody, you can pull me to the side?
I'll go a step further, right? Like, if your homie says, man, you're weak, and you need to lift some weights, right? It hits different than when your girl tells you you're weak, right, and you lift some weights. Right? Yeah. Because if my girl tells me that, divorce. I'll hear that from the world. The world is beating down on me constantly. I won't hear that from my girl. And I'm not, it's not that type of relationship, but you understand what I'm saying.
Right.
Your coach is supposed to be like, you hear the hard things in private.
Yes.
You hear the hard things in private, and publicly you stand by your guys.
Yeah.
That's
so
it.
again, I understand both sides of this conversation, and that's why I'm not denigrating him for that. I understand what it could lead to, and I think that was the entire point I was trying to make during this entire, the War Report hates Hugh Freeze thing that was going on out here. It's like I don't know how you hear me make fair critiques about things that I think should be universally accepted as truth amongst people, and think that I somehow am not in support of Hugh Freeze when I've been effusive in my praise of Hugh Freeze in literally every other way. So I don't know. Again, and you could turn that around on me, and you're like, well, you don't have to say that in public. You could have I don't have Hugh Freeze's number, so I can't go and just tell him. But again, I don't have a paycheck that comes from Auburn University that requires me to kiss Hugh Freeze's butt when I feel as if he's done something that's not good. Like I'm allowed to say things in that nature because at the end of the day, I don't know that Hugh Freeze gives a crap that I said it. So it's not going to affect he's not sitting there, on the golf course on the 16th tee, sitting there saying, man, those guys, the War Report said I was a little harsh about my critique. I don't think he gives a crap.
I will tell you this, though. He does hear at least some of the things that
I'm sure he's heard it. I don't think he gives a crap, though.
Yeah. And he has asked me after our one-on-ones about some of the opinions that we have on certain things. Because before we start recording, and this is why I don't get like the whole there was a contingent of people and it started over on the corner. It happens at the bunker too. I think this is the worst part of the fan base, right? Is anonymous accounts,
yes,
on message boards,
yes,
are some of the worst parts.
Put a name and a face on it if you have so much to say.
Fandom, yeah, I'm telling you. And so I blocked a lot of them on Twitter because they're dumb enough to use the same usernames that they do on message boards on social media. And they started a whole we were campaigning against Peyton Thorne campaign.
Right.
And like, I will tell you this, I had another writer say on their message board that I was trying to get Hugh Freeze to say something negative about Peyton Thorne. Mind you, we have the War Report has a great relationship with Peyton Thorne and his family. They watch our content. We talk to them often. Right. And this writer has zero relationship with Peyton Thorne. None. Zero. So, when I heard it, I was like, where's he getting that from? I don't understand that at all. But you know what? Neither did Peyton.
Right.
Because it never comes up when we talk. And I still talk to him now. Hey, man, how's it going in Cincinnati? What's going on? Tell me. Fill me in. They're people to us. And we can be critical of their play without thinking that they're the worst people in the world. Hugh Freeze understands that as well, too. It's something we talk about, before and after interviews.
Yeah.
He understands at the end of the day, we got to talk about what you do, about what you accomplish. That's why during the interview, what I appreciated, and if you were one of these people, I really appreciate you, that reached out after we dropped our one-on-one interview and said, Mike, you were tough, but fair in that interview. You asked tough questions, but respectfully. And I think the toughest of it was, hey, coach, there were a lot of people that felt like missing a bowl game last year wasn't about the talent. And he answered that, I thought, the best way he possibly could have. He said, you know what, we're not running from that. We know we have to coach it better. We know we have to be better as a coaching staff. We know we let these guys down as a coaching staff at times, but also we got to execute in certain areas as well, too. Some of that's on the player. Some of that's on us. Ultimately, as a program, we got to get it together. And that starts with me. Great. Awesome. He gets it. He understands it.
Right.
And he doesn't take it personal as much as fans take it personally. Or this other person takes it personally. I just don't understand. They're selling that
Yeah,
narrative.
I mean, well, it's not personal, right?
It's not.
I've never in the entirety of my time at the War Rapport had a personal attack on a player or coach. Never, not personal, right? Like I say disparaging things about a bunch of people who I have zero investment in other teams, and it's never personal about them. Other than I don't really like the way Nate Oates sounds when he talks. Like I've said that, and I stand by that. Like he always sounds like he's about to belch when he's
Yeah,
trying
if it's
to
about Bama players, it's personal.
yeah, but
Yeah,
I
okay.
again, I don't have a reason to attack, and even that is just like talking about how he talks. It ain't really about. I don't know Nate Oates as a person. I've literally never had a conversation with him. I don't have any opinions on who he is as a person. As much crap as I talk about Ole Miss, I don't have any personal opinions of Lane Kiffin. I think he makes dumb decisions on fourth down a bunch, and he underachieves with really talented teams a lot. I don't know him personally. I don't have nothing against the man personally. And if he takes offense to that, then he takes offense to it. Like, what am I supposed to do about that? But like the idea that now somehow critique has to be personally motivated is silly. And then because you feel personally, like you feel as if it's personal, you start to attack me as a person in response to that. That's when it becomes stupid. It's like, bro, what? Why are you even, number one, I wasn't talking about you. Number two, what you're alleging that I'm saying I didn't say. And number three, even if you thought I said all of those things, why are you offended? I wasn't talking about you.
Yeah.
And you don't even personally know the person who I'm talking about. It's not like it's your brother or friend. It's just like, calm down, bro.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. What? Well, here's the thing. In a lot of those instances, we actually know them personally.
Right.
So it's why we feel free to speak on it. They know, they understand. We did a segment on Damari Alston recently, and I get a text from a number I don't know, and it's Damari, and I'm like, bro, you change phone numbers a lot. Like you running from an ex or what's going on? And he said, hey, we're locked in. He said, Mike, we're locked in for this season. The run game is locked in. Make sure you share my number with Ike. You remember I said you like, hey, this is Damari. Lock him in. And in that segment, we were both hopeful, but also a little critical.
Right. Which is fair. And again,
fair. Yeah,
I have a great relationship with Damari Alston. Great, like every time I see him, it's nothing but love. Like, but I think it's fair to have questions about the things that are questionable.
Yeah. Yeah. So when we start talking about ball security, those are fair questions, I think, based on what we've seen. Now, you've come out and said, I think some of the ball security things are a little overblown.
Yeah.
Also fair, right? And so it really is just one of the things I hope that we can do going into this season is foster a more fair discourse around Auburn sports.
Yeah.
Especially when things aren't going well. And this is both what makes Auburn sports so great, but also a little toxic. Is that people care so much, Ike.
Right.
And you can't have these sorts of, you can't have a fan base like Auburn has and not have these passions around it. That's why I excuse a lot of it. I don't take a lot personally anymore when people are going. It doesn't mean I'm going to interact with you, right? If you're making it personal. I'll mute you and then move on with my day. But I get it, but I understand it. I have broken at least no less than 30 remotes in the name of Auburn football not winning. I get it. I understand it. And you can't get that upset unless you care. You have to care to get that upset. These are the people that will complain, but at the end of the day, they're buying tickets and they're showing up to the next game. That's the only way you have a game like Auburn had last year versus Texas A&M for a losing football team where they're rushing the field like they won the Super Bowl after it was over.
Right.
Passion. The fan base has it. Hugh Freeze understands it. How do you think Auburn football is so well funded with NIL? passion. People are opening their checkbooks because they want to see Auburn win so bad. They will spare no financial expense to make sure Hugh Freeze has what he needs to make that happen, to deliver that moment. I have yet to see Auburn be there when Auburn wins a national title. I thought 2013 was our moment. When they didn't, when that game was over and the clock hit zeros, and me, Caesar, and our best friend Deontay and our other friend Rufaro were walking back to the car. What was sad about that moment, Ike, is that we said to each other, we don't know if this will ever happen again in our lifetime. We were in school for one undefeated season. Auburn to get a chance to play for a national title. 2010, nobody made it out. 2013, we got there, they lost. 3 shots at it in one
right
in like 10 years, in a 10-year span, was crazy. And we left there thinking this might have been the last chance that we have to see Auburn take the whole cake. Now that there's a college football playoff, I have renewed hope that Auburn will get another shot at it, because you don't have to be perfect through the conference. You don't have to do what you did in 2010 to get there. But passion is the reason why these conversations remain relevant. It's why we can have a channel and do this for a living. Because we care. Everybody who's here cares. And if you have invested financially and emotionally and physically and in every way possible, you're allowed to have a voice about what you see. If you've bought a ticket to a football game, you're allowed to have an opinion about what you saw. I support your right to be upset with what you're watching. Just let the coach coach. Well, okay, yeah, he can coach, but he can hear this criticism too, because I took my family of 4 down there and spent a couple grand to watch a football game.
Yeah, and listen, the results are the results, right? So I don't even understand what we're arguing about.
Yeah.
We're having a conversation about things that are evident. That it didn't look good, and there's a lot of reasons why, and some of those happen to be coaching. And I think it's a fair statement to make.
Yeah.
Right, let's get to these preseason All-Americans really quickly before we get out of here. Again, the SEC, Auburn had 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 guys, according to Steele. All-Americans, though, that list goes down, of course, because it's all over the country, to 3. Second team, Cam Coleman. Fourth team, Eric Singleton, and special teams, Rayshawn Pleasant, both 4th team guys. So 1 second teamer, 2 4th teamers. I ain't gonna hold you. Like, I hadn't looked at his tape yet, but I didn't. I don't know that I realized that Pleasant was supposed to be like this special teams guy. And I'm looking at his ranking here in PFF, or his rating, I should say, here in PFF, and in the return game as a overall, he's has a 77.7, as a kick returner, 75.9, 449 return yards last year, with a long, I guess he has, and he had 2 touchdowns last year as a returner. I know. I listen. I was unfamiliar with your game. My apologies. I was looking at him as a defensive back prospect. I did not realize that he was giving you that return element as well, because we hadn't talked about specialists as we went through and started breaking down position groups. Now, when we do that, I guess maybe we'll have that conversation Friday. I got to put this man in this conversation because I wasn't there with him. 4th team All-American as a returner. But what do you think about the 3 guys named here?
Cam Coleman, obviously no surprise. Second team as an All-American is actually a great honor. But make no mistake, he was 2 yards short of 600 yards last season. So this is about the potential that they feel he has as a football player. That's why I'm telling you, like, it's a given. Cam Coleman is going to be playing in the league in 2 years. It's not even a question. He's going pro. And when you have guys that come through your program like this, that are that good, they make these lists. I think the same now about Eric Singleton, right? I think that he is another guy that is going to be pro, and it's not even a question. So they'll represent Auburn well this year. But getting Pleasant.
He's getting that hype already, is Eric Singleton, as far as a guy who is going to be an NFL guy.
Yeah, but as you mentioned about Pleasant, well, I'm with you. Like, I didn't know he was a dude like that.
Yeah.
I had no clue. And so you recruit so well, guys are flying under the radar, and it's going to be fun to watch them. Special teams, with as close as Auburn came to having, a decent season in the win-loss column last year, guy like Pleasant could be the difference.
Yeah. Yeah. He could be,
Plus
again,
one.
listen, man, flipping field position, underrated, man. That's why people always talk about 3 phases. You got a guy who could potentially flip one and take it 30, 40 yards. That changes your field position drastically, man. And so if he's a guy who can be, according to this, one of the top 4 return men in the country next year, Phil Steele thinks he could be one of the 4 best return men in the country next season. That is a huge advantage because it does a couple of things for you. If you kick it to him and he actually does something with it, it flips the field. But it also means that if he's that dangerous, you do your best to not kick it to him, and it changes the mentality of anybody going in there trying to punt to the guy or trying to kick. It changes the way in which you have to adapt your special team because it's like, man, we can't kick the ball to him. Or if we do, it's potentially going to be a whole other situation. So I think that that's a tremendous thing that I had not really taken into account when you're talking about how good potentially the recruits are coming in for this transfer classes. I'm thinking, oh, he's just a depth piece at the DB, and it's really stacked in that room. I don't know if he's going to play, but if he's going to be a special teams guy who can come in here and really change field position situations, then kudos to this staff for really bringing in a guy. I'm looking forward to this now because apologies. I know, people thinking I hadn't looked at the tape. And if I had looked at the tape, I would have been going and looking at his defensive snaps. I wouldn't have been looking at special team snaps. But now I need to go evaluate him very differently now.
Yeah, absolutely. How many times over the years has Auburn gone back to field a punt and you were like, God, please don't let him drop it?
Yeah, just field it. Like, I had a lot of confidence in my guy Keontae Scott and his ability because I just felt like Keontae had the ability to break one at any moment, and he wasn't going. He was allergic to fair catching, but there has not been this sincere, to your point, hope that anything other than just fielding it cleanly was a good hope to put out there, right? Like, you're just catch it, bro. Like, if it's just don't muff this. And there have been too many instances of muff punts out there in the last however many years that have been disastrous. That you're like, man, can we just find somebody who can go out there and just catch it, or a guy who's not taking it out of the end zone in air? Like, just can we get good in the kicking game or the kick return game, please, at Auburn? And maybe he's gonna be the guy that changes that.
Yeah, that puts our hearts at ease when they go back. Do you remember? God, who was I think it was Carr, the 2010 season during the Iron Bowl. He went back to field a punt and he muffed it, and Alabama recovered, and I thought the game was over. Chat, help me out. What was the name of that receiver? I
think that's right.
I think it was Antoine Carr.
I don't know if that was his first name.
Yeah, I'm sure maybe his first name was Antoine, but come on, chat. Y'all know who I'm talking
chat
about.
Always, we have the Auburn historians in the chat.
Yeah, like it was Coy. It wasn't Coy. It wasn't Coy Moore. This was
Quindarius, according to him.
Quindarius Carr. Yes, Quindarius Carr. Like, he muffed it, and we were like, "What are you doing, man?" I thought for sure the game was over.
Yeah.
And Auburn has a long history of this that hopefully they will shake this season. So it's going to be fun to watch. So much talent everywhere. I can't stress enough. Hats off to Hugh Freeze for the amount of talent he's been able to amass on the Plains in just essentially 2 full recruiting classes. It's been remarkable. And he says he's 1 class away. I don't know if this is going to be the class the way it's trending right now, but hopefully if they get a few wins under their belt to start the season, we'll see those flips start to come in, and they'll have a little bit more to sell, recruits. Exciting times, Ike. I'm telling you, this is going to be super exciting.
Yeah, listen, it's got all the earmarks of being potentially exciting, but it turns, we've said this countless times, how quickly this could swing in the other direction if you don't get off to a fast start. But again, I'll bring it back up because the vast majority of your games are going to be against the SEC. When you've got this many guys that are essentially the top 4 in their position in the conference, according to Phil Steele, you got to feel good about where you are as a program as far as your talent is concerned. And you've got guys who, according to Phil Steele, are some of the best in the country at their position, top 4 in the country at their position. You've got to feel as if you've got some dynamic game changers in here. There's a lot of people right now who feel as if these 2 wide receivers that are here on second and fourth team comprise the best duo in college football from a wide receiver perspective. They're the best. Best 1-2 punch from the wide receiver perspective in a room that I would argue is one of the best in the country, where you've got 4, maybe 5 guys that could potentially be starters on just about every team all over the country, right? Like, I don't know how many teams right now don't take Cam Coleman, Eric Singleton, Malcolm Simmons, freaking Perry Thompson, Horatio Fields. Like, those 5 guys, I think, could start at just about any team all over the country. Just about. You got 5 guys that I think very few teams in the country right now wouldn't say, I'd take that guy and he'd start right now for my team.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a really good wide receiver room, man.
Well, they're top
150
guys. They're top 150 guys. So anybody saying they wouldn't take those guys, you're lying to yourself. Everybody wanted those guys. And I think that's what's different about what he's amassed is he went out and got those recruits everybody else wanted. They chose Auburn. Some of them flipped to Auburn. Remember, Perry was a Bama commit.
Right.
He said, no, I'm going to go to Auburn. And this is why I'm a big Perry Thompson guy. I'm a Cam Coleman guy because he's from the crib. Yeah, I went to high school with his dad. He's a talent like no other. But I'm also a Perry Thompson guy because he flipped from Bama. He flipped a top 30 recruit, was committed to Bama and said, nah, I'm going to take my talents to the Plains.
Right.
So I'm going to advocate for him all day long to get on the field and show what he's got because I want recruits to see that that's a good decision. He flipped from Bama to, and if it doesn't work out and he goes someplace else and he balls, it's going to be used against Auburn in that negative recruiting pitch.
For sure.
They took a top 30 guy and just benched him.
Now, especially if it doesn't work out on the field, right? Like if you're losing games and you've got a top 30 guy sitting on your bench and then he goes somewhere else and he becomes the next whomever that they've predicted him to be out of high school, you're going to look stupid.
Yep, that's it. That's what it boils down to. You just can't. You've got to make it right with Perry. You have to make it right with Perry. I think they'll try to do that at least this year. I thought Perry gave them a lot to think about in the 8-day game.
Mm-hmm.
I did. I think he made it real tough on them. Like, oof, man. Like, how do we keep this guy off the field? I don't think they're going to be able to. I don't think they're going to be able to keep him off the field. He's just way too good.
Listen, this is a great problem to have if you are out here worried about Auburn. Again, and we've said this countless number of times. Jackson Arnold, it's on you, my boy. You got all the stuff necessary to make it happen. It's on you.
Yes.
This is not a situation where you are coming from at Oklahoma. No disrespect to Oklahoma, because I actually mean no disrespect in this instance, because I do think that Oklahoma has a lot of talented players, but you're not at a situation where at the one deep, if you have to go to that second level, you don't have enough talented guys that can go out there and make plays. You absolutely, I named 5 guys, but I do think that number extends beyond those 5 and talented guys that are in that wide receiver room. Some of them just haven't had an opportunity to show it, right? Like when you talk about that initial freeze 4, people are still forgetting there's another guy who never gets mentioned in that 4 that still is out there who has an opportunity to be really good. We just don't really know yet what Bryce Kane could be. And plenty of people talk about the crazy athleticism that he has and his ability to be a game-changing type of player.
Yeah.
And he's buried in the depth chart right now.
Thanks.
And so you've got enough guys, man, that they're again, we've said it already on this one. We've said it plenty of times. The excuses of how this fell apart are just going to look crazy on Saturdays in those post games, man. Like, it's going to look like, are you for real? You lost that game?
Yeah.
With those players?
Mm.
Or you got beat in that way? Like, I don't care if it's Georgia. You got beat that bad with those players?
Yeah.
I don't care if you think that that Georgia's the more talented team, or you think that Auburn shouldn't be on the field with whomever. They should be able to make it it should be a game every single week. You shouldn't lose more than 5 of them, not with those guys.
No, you shouldn't.
So
couldn't agree more.
Yeah, listen, man. Let's make it happen, bro. Make it happen, my boy.
Hugh Freeze he's got this is gonna I have a feeling this is gonna be a good year for him. I really do believe this is gonna be a good year for him. I think that Auburn gets it done. Like, how far over the line did they go? That's the question. You know, how far did they take it? And when you look, I don't want to say that miracles are the new standard, right? Like, it's because it's not what we're aiming for here. But I do think that at the end of the day, you've got a great opportunity to do something that when Auburn is not expected to be there, that's when they sneak up on people and they get it done. So it's going to be fun, man. I think it's going to be very fun to watch, and Auburn is in a unique position to make all this happen. So let's see where it goes.
Yeah. All right, let's get back over here into these comments before we get out of here, because there's some good super chats here, and that's who we'll start with. Dustin Pace, who says, if I may, I think maybe the reasons for the talent message is better for the long term, as well as bring himself time and forgiveness to be able to hold his job. Auburn is often over expectant. So if I can paraphrase what I think Dustin is saying right here is he feels maybe he was sandbagging a little bit to say, hey, if we lose some games, we're not that good. And then when you lose the games, you're like, see, I told you, look, we weren't that good to begin with. I tried to tell you guys to begin with, and we didn't want to raise your expectations, because sometimes if fans hear the positive messaging, the whatever from the coaching, then they'll start to run with it and be like, we're going to win the Natty this year. And he's like, oh, wait a minute. We're not national championship good.
Yeah, I would say forget the fans and say what's best for the players.
Right? Again, I just don't know that you have to even say anything, right? Like, I just don't know that has to be a public commentary at all. Well, like, even if you're directly asked that question, you could just say, hey, man, we're going to go out here and we're going to compete. And that's what I expect. And that has nothing to do with talent gap, all of that. Like, who cares? I don't care what the talent gap is. Doesn't have to be said at all.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like, hey, at the end of the day, go out. Two things can be true at one time, Mike.
Yeah.
Yes, we got a while to go before we catch up to Alabama and Georgia in terms of the depth of talent that those teams have.
Mm-hmm.
That's not a hot take. That's not dissing anybody on your team either. It is just a known fact that those teams are otherworldly when it comes to recruiting right now, and they have the results to back it. But we feel like we have some guys that can go out there and play ball. And we're going to see what we can do. And if they don't get there, that's on me. But we're going to try to get the most out of them. And that's it. I think that's the message. I don't think that makes anybody over expectant. Right. And it still sends the message that you need time to build something.
Yeah.
Right. The people who really need to understand that you need time are the guys with the checks.
Right. And here's the thing. I think they all understood it coming in that they're, I do think that, again, there's a mirroring of the public and private messaging to the recruits that is out there. And he's using that press conference to recruit essentially. But you still have to balance that out with the psyche of the guys that are on your team right now, because those guys, they need the opportunity to go out there and show what they've got on the field and have a coach or feel as if they've got a coach that believes in them to the highest degree.
Yeah.
Zach jumps in with a super chat. Just got here. I don't know if it has been talked about, but where is Jay Crawford, man? Arguably Auburn's best cornerback. I actually did make this point earlier, Zach, that I would argue Jay Crawford probably was, again, this does not speak to whether or not I feel like Kay and Lee deserve to be on the list. I just think Jay Crawford deserved to be on there as well. And if you're only going to pick one of them, I probably would have put Jay Crawford over Kay and Lee, just because physically I think that he's got all the tools, and he proved to be really good in his true freshman campaign coming in last year, at being a coverage guy, getting interceptions. The biggest critique from every Auburn fan for the last however many years about DBs don't ever get their head around that. That wasn't Jay Crawford's problem. He was doing that. Right. And so I think he does all the things that you need for your DB to be able to do on the outside. Again, I think Kay and Lee is supremely talented, going to be an NFL player, had opportunities to go to other high profile programs after his freshman season at Auburn, chose to stick it out at Auburn, not speaking to the talent level of Kay and Lee at all. Supremely talented, have the utmost confidence in his ability to be able to go out there and compete. I've talked to wide receivers who've had to go up against him in practice and talk about his work ethic and the level to which he concentrates on all of the things that he needs to do to get better on a consistent basis, the way he competes in practice. All of those things make him a tremendous guy. He tackles fairly well. No issues with him, but I agree with you. Jay Crawford might be the best one of the bunch.
He's good.
Yeah. James Barnett jumps in. Thank you all, as always, for the support. 52 months of support there as part of the Green Name Gang. He says, this wide receiver room is so talented that if you double team either one of them, someone will make you pay. I can see Auburn scoring a lot of points because of that. Yeah, I think, listen, this is the point that I've made consistently about this wide receiver room. It's very difficult to pick on somebody defensively and say, we're going to take this guy out and not have a problem on your hands with somebody else. John, one more week until Under Armour. That's a win. Talking about the Nike situation. We are
almost there.
6 days away.
I just dropped a segment over on Locked On UCF about their new Nike uniforms, and I couldn't help but just be jealous. I was like, in 6 more days, we can have a conversation about what they're putting on.
Yeah, next Wednesday, we might just do a whole segment on uniforms. John, one more week. Oh, until Nike, that's a win. That's what he meant to say earlier. Yes, definitely one more week left on Under Armour. One more week until Nike. John also correcting you or giving you information earlier. Gus Johnson will be in Columbus for the Texas Ohio State game, so you won't get to hear that call. Dustin saying Singleton running the nastiest routes I've seen for someone that fast. Listen, that's a fact. He's a really good route runner, and a really good football player, not just a fast guy. John asks, is he a kick returner? Speaking of Pleasant, yes, that is true. And last one here we'll get before we get out of here. Felix asks, are you guys in the same situation where Auburn needs to show it on the field before recruiting gets better? Yes.
Yeah,
I think that's evident that you need that momentum from wins. All right, man, we're out of here. Mike G, tell the people ways they can support, and we will let y'all get back to y'all Wednesday.
I want to thank our title sponsor, The Rage Room. You see the addresses there. Please go check them out and get your rage out at The Rage Room. If you're in Opelika or Birmingham, there's a spot for you. I want to thank all our members that joined. $5.99 a month, man. Hit that join button if you're watching this on replay and join our community. Lots of great patron-only content coming at you guys. Big shout out to the rest of our sponsors. Most of all, want to tell you guys, subscribe to us on podcasts. The Auburn Express, Uptempo, College Loop, Just a Sec, and the War Report, the gaming channel. Lots of great audio-only content. We need you guys to subscribe and download and listen whether you're on your way to school, church, picking up the kids. Lots of great audio-only content there for you as well.
Yes, indeed. And also, before you guys get out of here, make sure you share the content with somebody at the War Report. Make sure that you like this video. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Green Name Gang, I got more film review coming for you guys this week, so stay locked in right there. We are at the War Report on X and Instagram. TW Report on TikTok. We're out of here. Until the next time, and as always, War Eagle.
War Eagle.